Today, I will tell you not just about a scandal, but the turning point of an era. An island turned into a swamp, a dream, soon turned into a nightmare, a festival. Everything went wrong. A fraud grew before the eyes of millions, and behind the glamorous ads, the private jets, the supermodels, what struck us the most was this. We wanted to believe everything we saw. The Fyre Festival, the trial by fire of an illusion. In January 2017, social media was abuzz with advertisements for the most luxurious music festival in history. The festival promised attendees the world's most famous artists, luxury villas on a private island, expensive champagne, fine gourmet dining, and much more. But the reality hid a much darker story behind the glitzy publicity. Here is the unbelievable but true story of the downfall of the Fyre Festival. In 2016, a young entrepreneur named Billy McFarland had one big idea: the Fyre card. This credit card, designed for the rich, promised a luxurious life with no spending limits. It was a mind-blowing concept, especially for young entrepreneurs wanting to make deals with celebrities. The system eliminated celebrity managers. With this card, you could literally add the celebrity you wanted to your cart. Just like shopping online, no middlemen involved. But Billy had one major problem. He couldn't promote or sell this card to anyone until he met the famous rapper Ja Rule at a dinner party. Ja Rule loved Billy's idea. The two made a deal. To promote this card, they would throw the most luxurious festival the world had ever seen. Attendees would get the full VIP treatment, and the card would officially launch. But there was one small detail the duo had overlooked. They had no experience organizing a festival. They had no working prototype of the card. In fact, they had nothing, just an idea. The Fyre card was actually a figment of the imagination. There was no bank partnership, and the technical infrastructure was not ready. But Billy and Ja Rule thought they could fool everyone by using the power of social media. They would use the festival as a promotional tool for the card, and with the money they received, they would both finance the festival and make the card a reality. All they needed was a little more time. But time had its own rules, and these rules did not work in their favor. Billy and Ja Rule used the power of social media to market the festival. Famous models shared posts with the hashtag number Fyre Festival. Renderings of luxury villas that didn't exist went viral. People snapped up $12,000 tickets. But what was shown was all an illusion. What were the realities that were not shown in the advertisements? According to their plans, the festival was to be held on the legendary Norman's Cay Island, formerly owned by Pablo Escobar. They aimed to create a media sensation with the theme of narco-tourism. They even claimed that Escobar had buried some of his ill-gotten gains on the island, and that festival-goers could dig wherever they wanted. However, the Bahamian government did not approve of this idea. They did not want the island to be associated with Escobar. That's why, when the island was rented, a clause was added to the contract. Escobar's name was not to be used. Due to the violation of this rule, the contract was canceled. And at the very last minute, they had to rent another island, Great Exuma. Now, everything was much more complicated, and they were running out of time. The island of Great Exuma was a disaster for the festival. Transportation to the new island was difficult. It was more than an hour away from the mainland. The infrastructure was nearly non-existent. Water, electricity, and sewage systems were severely inadequate, even for the island's residents. But most critically, with the festival date fast approaching, there had been virtually no preparation. While an event of this scale would typically require at least 2 months of groundwork, the organizers had only 3 weeks, and they only began pitching tents in the final 2. They sought help from inexperienced local contractors, telling workers, "You can handle it," and leaving all responsibilities to them. Most workers on the ground knew the setup couldn't be completed in time, but they didn't speak up. Many hadn't been paid yet and feared losing their jobs. Any problems were kept from Fyre media staff. Some workers even used their personal credit cards to cover urgent costs, deepening the financial chaos. Meanwhile, a businessman named Calvin Wells began closely scrutinizing the operation, which he found increasingly unrealistic. He discovered that the private island featured in promotional materials wasn't secluded at all. The map shown was actually a cropped part of a larger island. Realizing the deception, he began exposing the festival's lies. Despite this, preparations pushed ahead undeterred. He even managed to get a story published in the Wall Street Journal, but it failed to raise alarms. As the festival date drew near, attendees still had no travel information. When they started asking questions on social media, Fyre staff simply deleted their comments. On the eve of the festival, there was a strange silence. Billy was having his final meeting with his team. Mary Ann, a local business owner, was cooking $50,000 worth of food. Meanwhile, the meteorology department issued a severe thunderstorm warning, but no one was listening to the news. Nature was no joke. 2 days before the festival, heavy storms and rain caused the tents and beds that had been set up until then to be submerged in mud and water. When the first participants arrived on the island, it was a nightmare. Promised luxury villas, they were met with wet tents. Security was non-existent. Crews and participants were running around in chaos. Artists who were previously rumored to be attending the festival announced on Twitter that they would not be attending the festival. Now there was only one question on everyone's mind. Will we get our money back? This sandwich, which became the symbol of the Fyre Festival, summed it all up. The promised life of luxury was nothing more than a slice of cheese squeezed into a loaf of bread. Participants were either soaking wet in tents or at the airport waiting for a plane to escape. Conclusion: Billy McFarland sentenced to 6 years in prison. Participants won $26 million in compensation, but many still have not been paid. Local business owner Mary Ann Roll was only able to get her $50,000 back through donations. Fyre Festival has gone down in history as a symbol of social media hoaxes. It left a lesson that will never be forgotten again. The conclusion to be drawn from this event: do not be fooled by the life and images shown to you on social media. Try to see the truth hidden behind those images. And now imagine, you've given all the money you've saved for a festival you've dreamed of going to all your life. You arrive on a paradise island, but at the gates of paradise, you find hell. No stage, no concert, no bed, no food. Part of you is angry. The other part can't believe it. Because it wasn't just a festival. It was a dream that was sold to you. And you really believed in this dream. So now, who is solely responsible for this disaster? Billy McFarland, Ja Rule, or the tens of thousands who fell for the social media hype? Was Billy really a con man? Or did he fall victim to his own lie while trying to make his dreams come true? This is not just a bankruptcy story. This is one of the great illusions of the digital age. And perhaps the real tragedy is that no one has learned the lesson. What do you call this? Fraud? Or the tragic end of daydreaming? Let's meet in the comments. Because maybe we are all victims in this story. Remember, man tells the biggest lie to himself first.